All right, let's go, everyone. Super pumped to interview Edgardo Balentine. He's in Naples, Florida. You can just tell we got a pretty young dude here. So, I call it the next generation. I don't know his exact age, but I know he is killing it because he was referred by the leadership team at Better.com, Neo division. Danny Harani, when I had a day where I tried to talk to 100 people in a single day. And I would say, hey, it was a really simple script. It would be, what can you refer me to someone that I should know that could create impact with? And he's like, oh, Dave, you've got to talk to Edgardo. Like, and he just raved at how impressed he was with you. And then part of my script after I got a referral from someone was anything I could do to help you. And I think he might have said, interview Edgardo because he really is creating impact. He's just the epitome next gen originator. So, dude, what are you doing to be such a badass?
Well, thank you for having me, man. And you nailed my name, by the way. Good job.
Oh, thank
Well
you.
done
Because
on
you've watched enough of my
that.
interviews to know that I don't always nail names.
Well done. Look, man, we have such a great community in the mortgage industry, and part of it is what you've been doing. The guys at Neo have been doing it, and there's a lot of information. And I think that the right way to do loans and the right way to advise clients, it's there, right? Like, yes, we're always implementing new things, but it's been there for a while. So I think the secret to what we've been doing is we do the same thing that every good originator is doing, which is what you preach here and what Neo preaches, but we just do it at scale and we do it loudly, right? It's not just about doing, um, you know, a TCA. It's about doing the TCA for the client, but not stop it there and also send it to the realtor, also send it to the listing agent. So the listing agent sees what we're doing. Because the one thing that I've learned is every time I see the people that come here in the interviews and every time I go to one of these presentations is it's amazing what they're doing, but everybody keeps it a secret and only the people that come to us as clients get to see the magic that we bring. So instead of just keeping it to our clients, we try to spread it across the board. So that's, I mean, it's basically doing the basic but louder than everybody else.
Love that. So going the extra mile. By the way, how long have you been in the mortgage business?
This is gonna be my 6th year.
Okay, so 6 year. And what is your primary referral source?
Realtors. Yeah,
Realtors.
lots of realtor
Um,
partners.
Yeah, and being someone who's been 6 years in the business, you've got to a level where you're a career loan officer. You're making business, you're making money. This is a really good job for you. Hearing the news of Rocket acquiring Redfin, so they've got 50 million purchase leads coming through that funnel. They've got a 90+% retention rate, so they do refis real well. And now they bought Mr. Cooper, so now 1 in 6 mortgages under that platform. Does that worry you or concern you, or like how do you process that? Being this 5 year guy who wants to have a career in mortgage.
Well, that's a great question because look, the way I see it is it's silly to say that I can just tune out the noise and that's it because look, there's disruptors in the industry and whether, this is a reality that's going to affect me right away in 2025 or 2026, this is probably something that's going to shift the way that business is done over the next 10, 20, 30 years, which is, the amount of time I want to be in the mortgage industry. But the way I see it right now, we're playing different games. Like when I talk to my clients, my first, like I specialize mostly in first time home buyers. The first time home buyers, they need a different type of advice and a different type of hand holding that, quite frankly, a rocket loan officer, with all due respect, just can't give the advice that and that the hand holding that I'm giving right now. So when it comes to like the next 12, 24 months, I just feel like we're not competing for the same business. There's plenty of this business to give. And it's just a matter of elevating ourselves as advisors so that we're going for different demographics.
Yeah. So take away from what I just heard, you've got a niche, and it's a niche like first time home buyers in a local market where you can do what Rocket can't do. You can, one, be there in person. Uh, you know, your local market, and two, you can give advice beyond Google and beyond what someone would do. So describe your niche a little bit more. Is there anything else unique about you or the niche in the way you approach your market?
Well, I want to point something out too. Like it's just understanding what value we're bringing, right? Like there's no tactical advantage of being the second cheapest in the market, right? You're either going to be the cheapest or you're going to be the one that provides the most value. So we just focus on what the value that we bring is. And it's obviously for us, it's not going to be the cheapest and competing with the rockets. It's just going the extra mile like we were talking about. So look, the way I see it is simple. When it comes to talking to clients right now, and when it comes to talking to realtors, quite frankly, the sales is just the transference. And I like this quote is sales is the transference of belief on a bridge of trust. And if you think about what housing represents right now, housing is an incredible opportunity for a normal family, a normal person to create a lot of wealth and to, in 2 years, in 3 years, have access to more money that they could ever have. And unlike the last, or unlike 3 years ago, which, I was very new in the industry, but 3 years ago, it was an obvious decision to buy a house, right? It was super obvious. Rates were super cheap and everybody was extremely excited about buying a house. What I'm encountering now is people that they're talking to me. So if they're talking to me as the loan officer, they're really there asking for permission, right? They just want me to give them a sign that this is the right financial decision for them. But it's how I can transfer that belief with the mortgage coach and with everything, all the tools that we have, that this is the right decision for them. So the presentation, the pre-purchase consultation that you've had here a lot of different times to kind of like explore that and to show them what's possible. And then when they're under contract, doing a contract meeting to reinforce the behavior and to reinforce the decision that they made, those two things are incredibly valuable. And then from a scalability standpoint, it's never do that alone and never do that quietly. So when I do a pre-purchase consultation or a contract meeting, we invite the realtors, we record them if we can, we put them in social media. Obviously, we delete the things that we can't put in social media, but we tell everybody, the listing agent, the title company, just everybody. And then they see that we're doing business in a different way. Because the thing is, doing the right thing, but doing it quietly is this, it only has a one-to-one impact.
Yeah, man, that's so good. By the way, there's so much gold in all the things you said. So first of all, speed to trust. So you're playing that game. Um, because I know that you use Mortgage Coach and I know that you use our data services. You talked about it when we were doing prep. He's executing on two things that will win in this market. One, speed to need. The term, like when you see Rocket's press release when they acquired Mr. Cooper, the CEO is like anticipating the needs of the consumer. Like,
Yeah.
like they are building, this tip to tail homeownership platform. And and to win, you need to get to the needs of the consumer, sometimes even before the consumer knows it. Another term that I'm hearing a lot in the industry is click to final payment. Click is they start searching. By the way, you need to get to the consumer before they click
Yeah.
and anticipate the needs. And then final payment is financial freedom. It's where they are a homeowner and they have paid off their home, or they have enough money in savings that paying off their home is a strategic financial planning decision. And so, guys, speed to need, and then speed to clarity. And I think that's where, as a local provider such as yourself, if you're using AI yourself, if you're using tools like Mortgage Coach, where you're like putting the data, and by the way, you're putting data in there that you can't get on Google. The only way you can find out what someone's hopes, dreams, and goals are is to actually ask them, listen, and then present all that data in a way that helps that consumer. Oh, I can see how you can help me build wealth with real estate faster. So let's unpack the other. So by the way, I wanted to connect the dots on all that for everybody. And then you
Well,
said two
but
things.
I
Oh,
love what
go
you're
ahead.
saying about I love what you're saying about clarity, right? Because clarity is important and it's something that it's so lost in banking, in the banking industry in general, and in the financial services in general. Because look, clear beats clever, right? And we need to make sure that when we talk to our clients, and again, my clients are predominantly first time home buyers or Latinos and all that. At the end of the day, what we want is for them to understand and to trust. So I love what you're saying about the clarity and the speed to give them what they need.
What percentage of your clients are Latino?
This is interesting. About 65% of my clients are Latino. About 35 of those are only Spanish speaking.
So
So even
35% of your clients are Spanish speaking only.
only Spanish speaking. The other ones are Latinos, but they can speak English or they're second generation or whatever.
Yeah. So, by the way, when you do the total cost analysis, do you like that Spanish version
The
where they can
toggle,
tag it?
yes. And it's so hard to find services that do things in Spanish. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Make a note, anybody on this, that not only can the mortgage coach be translated into Spanish, but are you a Spanish speaker yourself? I'm
Yeah, yeah,
kind
for
of,
sure.
yeah, kind of
I
assuming
speak
you
French
were. If
too.
multilingual. That's pretty cool, by the way.
Yeah.
Do you use that do you use that very often as a tool? Like, do you ever
Nah,
need
there's
that?
less French people here
Yeah, I was
than
gonna say,
Spanish
I'm
speaking.
not,
A lot of French Canadians. So I've
yeah.
used it with French Canadians more than with French.
And they're probably pretty like, wow, that's
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah, they're very.
I
It's
would,
an easy sell.
I wish I could do that. That would be so cool. All right. So he said two things. Don't do it alone. And he called out one example of where he's doing a lot of group meetings with realtors. By the way, that's something that Rocket can't do. And so do things that Rocket can't do. You said do it louder. You heard him say like he uses social media. Guys, he's local. He's in person. Picture with the realtor and a family. There's so many things that he can do that Rocket can't do. And give me other examples of when you said don't do it alone. I think you mentioned you share the total cost analysis with both the
Yeah,
buyer's
uh,
agent and the listing agent. What else do you
yeah.
do?
I'll tell you. I feel like every time I look at the videos here, or every time we go to a conference, there's so much gold that I go, oh my God, that's amazing that the Josh Meadows of the world are doing, and it's fantastic, right? And it's like, man, if that impresses me and I'm in the business and I understand everything that's happening or I understand what they're talking about, imagine if I was a consumer, a realtor, a title company, whatever, it would be even more impressive. So the way I see it is everything that we do that provides value to the client, we should share it with as many people as possible. So if I'm doing a total cost analysis for a property, why not share it with the listing agent and drop a message to the listing agent saying, hey, I have a pre approved buyer that's interested in your property. I thought it would be important for you to see the options that your clients have and this is the key one, and the other properties that they're comparing your property against. And this is a property, for example, and I used this like a couple of weeks ago. This is a property that's offering concessions, and this is how this property at a higher price still competes with your property. Now, when I call that agent to tell them that my client is putting an offer, it's a much easier conversation. They're not asking me if my client is pre-approved or if I'm prepared or if I understand that the property it's in a flood zone and that the flood insurance is going to be higher. It's a much easier call. When I call that agent to just go to have coffee with the agent or whatever it is, it's a much easier call because I'm showing them this with the properties that they have listed. So it's the same cost analysis that everybody's doing, but send it to everybody. I do the same thing because if you go to the MLS or if you go to the listing, you see, at least in my area, you see what title company that agent has chosen. I also send it to the title company because title companies, they can command a lot of business as well. Another thing that we
Love
do
it.
is when I do videos here, we do something called Content Day. We invite our agents to our office. We have different scripts and we tell them the scripts. We record with them, and when we post the video, we post them with them as collaborators. So I also tap into their audience. And when somebody asks a question, they just send my video with their video, and that's it. So it's basically the same activities that we're all doing alone, but let's do it with all the other micro influencers in our area, which are realtors, title companies, and whatnot.
By the way, did you guys hear that? Micro influencers, like local micro influencers. So let's go to do it loudly. And by the way, everything that you just described fits in both categories. I mean, it's louder. It is, by the way, the theme at the very beginning, going the extra mile. Like just in the conversation I'm having with you, you're just that guy that is going the extra mile for people. And by the way, if you do that, you will win regardless of what happens and who enters the space. But what are some examples of doing it louder?
Well, it's for example what I'm saying with the videos, right? Like I'll give you a good example. I had some questions about an inspection, and I called the inspector, and the guy seemed smart when he was talking to me on the phone. He seemed pretty eloquent, and I'm like, "Hey, do you mind jumping on a Zoom?" So he jumped on a Zoom, and I'm like, "Let me record this, and let me pretend that this is a podcast and ask you all these questions." So we recorded that. We chopped it into a bunch of little videos, and we sent it to him. He sent it to all of his past clients, and I get leads from that. And vice versa, I also sent it to a bunch of my past clients and my clients that are under contract, and he got a bunch of leads from that. And it's something that if I wouldn't have thought, or if I wouldn't think, hey, let's record it and send it to everybody, it's just a conversation that would have been valuable for me, but then I'm not maximizing it. And what happened with me was I realized about 2 years ago when the market shifted that, sometimes there's times for optimization and to think and to just work on the presentation and all that. And sometimes there's times for just violence of actions, right? Just doing a lot because, doing a lot and being the loudest person out there sometimes is more important than doing the right thing, but keeping it a secret.
Yeah, no, really, really
And
well
volume is
said.
a value in and of itself in many
Yeah,
ways.
and I would what you just said just reminded me of a interview I did with Josh Metal, um, also with Neo and Better, and it was called "Killer Pre-Purchase Conversion Tactics That Actually Work." So if you're watching this, I think it was like a 30-ish minute interview, 27 minutes I'm looking at right now. We'll put a link to that down below. But one of the things Josh talked about at the end, he talked about watching your game film. And so he gave a really killer script on how to make sure you're recording all your calls. So by the way, guys, if you're doing Zoom meetings, record those, and record it so that you can take better notes. By the way, I was at a mastermind. Cindy Ertman, shout out to Cindy Ertman, myself, Jeremy Forcier, Brian Covey. We were the speakers at a 2-day retreat, and people were going around the room sharing their best ideas in using AI. And Jeremy raved about this new listening device that he used. It's called where is it? It's
Like a
called
plot or something.
yeah, Plod.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
do you use Plod?
No, not yet.
So
Not
so
yet.
by
I
the
saw
way,
it. They
it's
sell they sell like a little like one that's even smaller than that.
I got that too, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the deal because I'm gonna share three ideas. So
Okay.
one, Josh's idea, record it so that one, you can go back and watch it and you can improve your sales. Like he was talking about how everybody, like, he was surprised and he's got some of the best loan officers in the country that he was like, after he started watching the game film, he's like, we can do better. And then Jeremy was saying, record it so that you have super killer notes and that you can forward those to the client and show them that you were listening. And you know what you'll also do? You'll do a better job of following up and keeping commitments of things that you do. And then you made me think of the other idea that you just added to this whole awesome idea of recording all your Zoom calls. Become a more effective salesperson, you have better notes, and then you've got some social media content. So if they say something that you could turn into, like, remember, do it loudly. Like, you could probably even get testimonials on these things, guys. You wanted to add something?
Yeah, I want to add something to that we started doing literally last week. So I play a lot with ChatGPT, and you can make ChatGPT do whatever. And through a lot of different sales frameworks and sales books, I've been, building up my ChatGPT to be basically a really, really good sales coach. So what me and my team are doing right now is when we do a Zoom, it also transcribes the meeting. So we're dropping it to the because we have basically 4 meetings with our clients. We have the DNG, which is the initial consultation. We have the pre-purchase consultation, which is it's probably the most powerful consultation there is. We have the contract meeting, which I think is very underappreciated, but I really think it's extremely important, especially to not get shopped and to relieve a lot of stress throughout the process and to also reinforce that decision that the person made. And then the last one is the post-closing call. Well, I basically explained to ChatGPT the influence objective of all of this and the points that I want to hit and all of that. So once we're done with the transcription, we drop it in ChatGPT. We tell them which kind of meeting it was, and ChatGPT does a phenomenal job at telling me what I did right, what I did wrong, at suggesting, hey, you use this phrase, but you should use this phrase instead. This is what you should keep. This is what you shouldn't keep. Like it does a phenomenal job at being a sales coach.
I love that. And by the way, I'm going to show a move. Now, I use an AI called Whoosy the most,
Okay.
Whoosy.ai. I put a link. If anybody wants to sign up for it, there'll be a link down below. But for research a lot, I use a technology called Perplexity. And so
Look at that
before my
guy.
podcast with you, I'm like, describe Eduardo Balentine with
Oh my
better
God,
slash
that's
Neo.
amazing.
And look at this, guys. His background, his expertise, his philosophies, his
That's
customer
great.
experience, like so by the way, guys, you want to do what Rocket isn't going to do? They're not going to do things like this before they talk to people. Now, by the way, although I don't know, they may be doing this at scale actually because they are listening to conversations, they're prioritizing. And then I said, what are 3 great questions to ask him on a podcast? By the way, I actually am doing a podcast with Edgardo right now. And by the way, I did know that you spoke French because it told me, but I acted surprised. Uh, anyways, even if you are not doing a podcast with a realtor, like, hey, and by the way, after this, I can go, what are 3 great headlines to promote this podcast? Anyways, you guys all get the idea. Like, if you are not, you want to individualize, you want to really go deep with people, start
That's
doing
cool.
this. So, by the way, let's go with this question right here. You are known for prioritizing financial literacy, which is probably one of the reasons why Danny thought I should call you. What is one of the misconceptions about home ownerships or mortgages that you wish people understood, and how do you address it with your clients?
It's a great question. Um, I'll tell you one that hits me and hits my culture and the people that I serve, which is the Latino community, the first time home buyers. It's the concept that credit is bad, that you should try to avoid credit as much as possible, and that you should try to pay things with the money that you have, and that's it. My parents are very well educated. My dad is a lawyer, my mom is a psychoanalyst in Colombia, and I was always taught to only buy what you own, or if you buy things that you can own, that's all you can buy, and not to put anything on credit. And credit is just a necessity, but it's not a tool to become better or to get wealthier. So um, that's one thing that when I came to America, and honestly, you know, I found myself, I came to America, I wanted to be a baseball player. That didn't work out. Then I said, okay, fine. I had a scholarship, so let me become a doctor. And I studied biochemistry and I finished my biochemistry degree. And I found myself thinking that I'm very smart, but without a real job, with the reality that now my baseball scholarship wasn't going to pay for med school, and that was going to be another 8 years, with a wife and a kid that I felt like I completely disappointed. And I started serving tables at night, and my wife, and I were living in a little condo, and like I said, we save money and we're responsible with the money. We don't pay anything with credit or anything like that, which we thought was the smart thing to do. We call our landlord and we're like, hey, we will pay 12 months in advance if you give us a discount, thinking, why not? And the landlord said, funny you call. we're actually selling the condo, so you need to get out of there in 30 days. And my wife had the crazy idea that we could buy a house. My wife was a teacher at the time. I'm just, waiting tables. And 30 days later, I don't know what I signed. I don't know what happened to me. I was able to buy a house. And that was one extremely scary. Like when you have your first baby, that they give you a baby and you go home and you're like, are you sure this is the right? Like, this is crazy. I don't think I'm responsible enough for this. But also, it unlocked uh, my mindset, which was if I have no idea what I signed and I have no idea what happened to me, and I was able to buy a house, imagine if I understood a little bit of the rules of the game. Like, what opportunities does this open up? And that's the biggest misconception is the credit is not a necessity and a bad thing. It's opens up a bunch of opportunities, and it's a tool to get wealthier, and it's a tool to really change people's around us life, like our people's life. So
Dude, well, first of all, that was amazing. It looks like AI came up with the best question of this interview. Like, wow, like that brought out such an amazing, inspirational, just, connected at a heart level story that you have. And by the way, it's also just a really good setup for first home IQ, which I know
yes,
I think we have over 10 loan officers at Better that are going to become part of it, that are already part of it. And we're currently talking to Danny about becoming a partner at Neo. And guys, by the way, that's what First Home IQ is all about. Like people in America, the race for home ownership starts at the age of 18 because that is when they can commit to credit card debt. That is when they can sign student loans. And most people don't understand the power of that. By the way, well, I don't know what the number is, myself included in my early 20s, I used credit wrong. Like I got the Sears card, racked it up. So many
what is the
18 year
Sears
olds.
card? They what?
Yeah, yeah, don't worry about it. I dated myself. That was in the 80s. That's hilarious, by the way. Uh, all the people, I'm 60, but 40 and up, we all know what that is. Um, but here's the deal, guys. If you want to differentiate yourself in your market, you got to win your database and you got to win locally. And if you can be that beacon of light for first-time homebuyers and not targeting them at 30 years old. Right now, the average age of a first-time homebuyer is 38. But if you
Right.
can literally into your database, I want to help your family get your kids into home ownership as early, as creatively as possible. Most people don't know about down payment assistance programs. Most people don't know about affordability strategies to get people into home ownership. Most 18-year-olds certainly do not know about credit card debt, and they don't understand that owning versus renting is the wealth gap in America. Like the average renter has a net worth of $10,000. The average owner has an average net worth of over $420,000. Like home ownership is the game. And so I can't emphasize enough that if you're watching this and you want to future proof your career, lean in to first time home buyers in your local community and lean into the youngest people possible. And here's another story. We just had a first home IQ ambassador that used all of our content and helped a 50-year-old get home ownership. So all of the content in first home IQ, it's just designed around financial literacy. You were going to say something?
No, I love what you're saying, and look, I think that everybody, I can't say everybody, but most people that think about buying a house, they want to buy a house. Like nobody just goes like, yeah, I don't want to buy a house. Maybe they don't want the payment, they don't want the rate, they don't want a lot of things, but people want home ownership. People want to feel like they own their home. And our job is to show them why that's the right decision. And most importantly, to be able to overcome all the objections and the obstacles of why this is a bad decision. Because I remember when I bought a house, and honestly, I bought, several houses since, and every time I buy a house, there's a little fear in me. It's scary. And if you're a first-time home buyer, you're somebody that's not in the business, that fear is multiplied. And it is our job to just transfer that belief that we have that buying a house is the right decision for them and their family, and definitely not a mistake. And inaction is an action too, right? Like not buying a house is a bad decision. And if we transfer that to them, not only they're going to buy, but they're going to be the best buyers right now. And that's the real value that we bring to our real estate agents, right? It's to make sure that when a client talks to me, they are like reincarnated into the most positive and the most excited person about this housing market. And I don't know, the only houses that I regret, the only house decisions I regret is not buying more. And this has continued to happen. And I don't want my clients to be in that position.
How many homes have you bought? And do you own multiple
Yeah,
properties?
I have right now, I have one commercial building, which is where we're at. And I have four properties and one manufactured home.
Wow, bro, what a great story. By the way, ChatGPT, when I asked for headlines, they said from Colombia to closing day, uh, Edgardo's journey to transforming the mortgage experience. But we definitely, when we come up with the headline, I think we need to, like what a great story that you
Trying to
moved
catch up
to
with Josh
America.
Maddow.
Huh?
I'm trying to catch up to Josh Maddow.
You got a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah,
I
I
mean, I
know.
don't,
I know.
yeah, like he has got a, and by the way, another great takeaway, the modern mortgage advisor is a modern marketer, Eduardo, check. Modern sales, check. He's an advisor. He's a mortgage coach. He's a data-driven mortgage coach, check. Money, like he makes money, he saves enough money so that he can invest that money. And what is the ultimate AI proof investment? I mean, real estate. Like AI can't crush
Yeah.
real estate. So if you are on this, be be an Eduardo, be someone that is a master advisor. By the way, what percentage of your home, or what is the average age of your home buyers? The in America, it's 38, but what would you say the average age is of yours?
Yeah, I work with a lot of first-time home buyers, but I am in Naples, Florida, which Naples, Florida is not, people are in like extremely young here. So I would say they're in their 40s, 45,
Okay, so
46.
you're not getting 20-year-olds into homeownership.
No,
Not to
no,
me.
not I mean, not a lot, and not definitely not a lot without their parents and stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is yeah, it's tough. It's tough market to be able to buy at 20.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Well, my friend, I now know why Danny, referred you to me. The collective impact that you and I are making together is going to help a lot of loan officers. And it sounds like you've watched a fair amount of the Mortgage Coach
Yeah,
YouTube channel. Is that
what loan
accurate?
officer hasn't?
I don't
Man,
know.
if you're serious about your crap, you know who Dave Savage is and you watch Mortgage Coach.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And dude, anything you want that's left unsaid? Any closing thoughts you have before we wrap this up?
Look, this is a market where we just needs to focus on action and just talking to everybody and being the beacon of light that real estate still makes sense. And my closing quote would be, or my closing thought would be, I believe that if you're excited about what we're selling, if we're excited and we believe in what we're selling, it's contagious. And what I've seen, because I've seen it with my team and I saw it with myself too in the last couple of years, there's been a little bit of doubt within whether or not this is really the right financial decision for our clients. And that's the first obstacle that we need to think about. Once you are convinced that what we're doing is the right thing and where we're doing for our clients is the right thing, everything becomes easier. So every once in a while, I check myself and I go, does this still make sense? I go through my own numbers and I go, absolutely, it makes sense. And that just, I promise you, when I do that, my next month is better just because it's contagious.
Love that. And I'd love to know because you're still relatively new in the business and mortgage coach, how important is actually delivering a total cost analysis and a mortgage coach to a consumer? Like, and how important is that in your mind?
Well, it's everything. I mean, look, we're talking about numbers and we're talking about very difficult concepts for somebody that doesn't really live in this world, right? Like how does a 2-1 buy down is going to impact me versus not doing a 2-1 buy down? Or what does one house look versus the other one from a financial standpoint? And like we were talking before, one of the important things if we want to build trust is clarity. And to me, it's impossible to buy a house with clarity without showing a total cost analysis. That's what gives me clarity on what is the financial decision I'm making. So I mean, it's extremely important.
So, guys, my closing thought, if you're watching this, you're a loan officer, every time you run a credit report, or even before the credit report, you have a conversation, give people clarity, and do it in a way that is unique and valuable. And the best way to do that is Mortgage Coach. So you can go to trustengine.com. We sell Mortgage Coach to individual loan officers and brokers for $150 a month. If you want to have us built into your tech stack, which I recommend you do, request a demo. We have both small groups, so we will sell Mortgage Coach to small groups and small branches, and then we also have our Enterprise Edition that goes out to everyone. Also, that's my for-profit job, and then my nonprofit side gig is First Home IQ. I am super passionate in this fourth quarter of my career to make impact and to help more young people because it is hard to get into homeownership. I am not naive to that. Like, but they could be buying duplexes. They could be house hacking. They can be leveraging other people's money, aka down payment resources. So be that leader in the local market that is really helping the next generation. And by the way, in Naples, Florida, you've got a lot of families with money and equity that have kids that want to get into homeownership, and maybe they're not going to be buying in Naples, but you could be the one showing them, hey, let me show you how every member of your family can get into homeownership easier, younger, scrappier, more creatively than any other loan officer in America. So can't wait to see you more active. So take care, my brother. You crushed.
Thanks, man. Thanks for
All
having me.
right. All right, guys. And if you have not subscribed to the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, we don't have every loan officer in America subscribing. So subscribe, share it, follow savageinsights.com. That's where I'm always posting who I'm interviewing next. And then there's a mobile club called Savage Insiders. Go to Savage Insights. That number will be up there. Just text it and you'll be in the club a couple times a week. We'll send you a text and tell you what's great. Eduardo, can't wait till the next one, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Take care.